and you need to hear about them from the leader of our city now, my good friend and our mayor, Randall Woodfin. All right, Randall. So we got to know each other really well 2 years ago when I sold out Iron Tribe. I was searching for my new play. This event, as I said to the audience, had a big effect on me. And you and I had lunch. I heard you were running for mayor. And then we met a few more times, and we started talking about the Woodfin plan. Right? And the 4 components: infrastructure, public safety, education, and small business. Why is small business one of the 4 pillars for the city of Birmingham as part of your plan?
Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. Listen, I am happy to be here with you all and celebrating of Innovation Week in support of everything every single entrepreneur is doing in this room, everything you're doing in our city. So thank you so much for what you're doing. For me, small businesses represent so much for the city of Birmingham. Without getting too political, the short of it is this: for our city to grow, it's not necessarily going to depend on major corporations or big corporations. As a city, I think the backbone of not just our tax base, but the growth of our city, the definition of our city, and the culture of our city would be how we support small businesses. So in one hand, the whole idea of opening your business, starting your business, expanding your business, the city of Birmingham, its role has to be, we have to be efficient in that process when you interact with us. But on the other hand, making sure we build an ecosystem, include an ecosystem, and support an ecosystem that really focuses on talent and support of local talent. That is going to be at the small business level.
So you mentioned talent. A lot of people think that small businesses are all about entrepreneurs and investors, right? Got to have great entrepreneurs creating a great idea that gets product market fit, and then you got to have investors to help them grow it and hire people.
Right.
But no matter how much money you have to hire people, you got to hire the right people. You need talent. So for those who might be at Alabama or Auburn, let alone some of the other schools in the Southeast, why should they come to Birmingham instead of Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville?
And so I've been talking about this all week. This whole notion of we don't have to be the next Austin. The city of Birmingham does not have to be the next Chattanooga or Nashville, Atlanta or Charlotte. We need to be the next version of our best self. That really means, right, we have local talent in this city and in this state. And for any graduate, whether it's Alabama, Auburn, UAB, or anywhere, we need to be intentional about retaining our talent, but we also need to be intentional about attracting our talent. And I think for our city, when you have things like SHIP happen, it sends a signal to everyone that you can be successful here in the innovation space, in the startup space, in the tech space, in the entrepreneurial and small business growth space. But I think my role in the city, as it relates to our administration, how do we attract that talent? The biggest thing we can do is celebrate and be a big cheerleader for the existing ecosystem in small businesses, and then figure out a way to promote what we're already doing right to continue to attract that talent.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm not from here. I've been here 15 years, but I'm from New York, and a lot of staff we hired at Iron Tribe and have hired at influencers not from here. It's an attractive city, too. It's a great cost of living. It's a great place to raise a family. There's a lot we have to sell.
Dude, listen, there's more positive going on in our city in the last few years. I inherited a lot of great things. My role is to continue to be a cheerleader and expand on the things that are working for our city. But I can tell you this, we have to talk about the intangibles sometime. The intangibles of hope, curiosity, daring to be different, not afraid of no, not afraid to fail. I think that's the spirit that exists in the city. Part of that spirit is a dotted line to what I call crazy. Crazy enough to take risk, high risk, but I also believe in high risk and high reward. And I think that feeds into the same mindset of entrepreneurs and people in the startup space who are not afraid to fail.
Well, you talk about crazy. I gotta say, we all love how you are on social media, and we love when you call out Delta. You know, we love when you do the things you do on social. You know, we love your playlist on Spotify. If you haven't heard it, download Randall's playlist. It's great. What other cities have a mayor with a playlist on Spotify? I think most of them are rocking CDs. All right, so I talked about the three groups real briefly with the audience before you came out. You know, the three groups that you and I have talked about for a while now that really make this whole thing churn, right? And so we talked about talent being one of the groups.
Right.
Then we said investors, and then we said the city. Let's talk about that investor piece. What is the responsibility of investors, both located here, angels, and located abroad, institutional? And what part do they play in this magic city vision that you have?
So investors play a big role. I've been a mayor now 8 months, and 6 of these months we've been intentional about courting, building relationships, being intentional in the space of developing relationships. We know a lot of capital as it relates to investors exists in New York. We know a lot of investors exist in the West Coast and California. But, you know, as the great poet Andre 3000 said, the South has something to say, right? And so consider that.
My man.
The South really does have something to say as it relates to investors can take advantage right here in Birmingham and what we have to offer. And so, again, I have to look at SHIP as a good example of when you have investors that can see that potential, what happens. And so we are looking for major exits in 2018. We're looking for more major exits in 2019. We want investors to plot down right here and make that difference.
And how big is it not only to let investors see big exits, giving the city more credibility, allowing them to have more interest in our startups to invest in them, but also how great is it when a big exit occurs and the people in this city who made the money off of that exit are reinvesting into startups? Because I would say 80% of the $1 million that we raised just now with Influencer is from successful entrepreneurs, CEOs in the city. So how important is it for people who win to reinvest?
Oh, it's major. You know, I spent a little over a year as a candidate, and I had a chance to meet a lot of people, some investors, some small business owners, people who have been here, who have made what works for them here. They love it here. And when they, I call it cash out, they don't necessarily want to leave. They don't want to take what they've had and leave somewhere else and go to the West Coast or go to New York. They want to reinvest. They want to win again. And I think for us as a city, we need to honor that, but we need to make sure we're creating a space for them to invest again.
Yeah, a good buddy of mine here in this city who's an entrepreneur, Josh Gervin, always says, we need young people driving around in Ferraris. and he's right. You know, we need to be a city where we're having exits, and not just the CEO, but the leadership team, the folks on the ground floor are all winning. And we need more ships.
We do.
And to his credit, Bill Smith is reinvesting all the time in a lot of the startups in the city. Right. So he deserves a shout for that. Okay, so the third group is the city, right? So talent, we talked about, investors, the city. You've made some big hires. You have recruited great talent. I can affirm you on that. His team is stellar. How important is the role of the city, and what is the role of the city in this ecosystem that we want to build?
Well, I would say the first thing for us as a city, we have to really create opportunity. So many times people say they want to start a business, they want to be in the space of a startup. What do I do? Where do I go? I think one, that opportunity is the first thing we do. Two is support the existing ecosystem. And so when you think of this week and what already exists in the city, in my opinion, this can go and extend longer than a week. This could be next week if we want it to be. We can do this over a month because there's so many great things happening in the space of startups and entrepreneurs and small business. For the city of Birmingham, the third thing we have to do is really, really have a laser focus, and I'm going to be on repeat for this. That's talent. I'm talking about talent development, talent retention, and then talent attraction. And so how do we support talent? I always say this, there are more solutions than there are problems, but I also believe there is a massive amount of talent right here in our city, in our region. As a city, my role in our administration is to support that talent, to make sure they have the opportunity to take the risk to fail, but take the risk to win as well. And those three things: opportunity, creating the space of opportunity, supporting the existing ecosystem, and making sure we invest in talent. That's our role.
So talent can come in all forms. You know, in sports, they always say you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So some people are practice players. Some people are the star quarterback. Not everybody can be the star quarterback. So there's people that are playing at all different levels, all types of roles, technicians, operators, visionaries, and it's important for everyone to play their role. If you look at great cities that have been built and the rise of those cities, it wasn't a great mayor that made it happen all by himself. It wasn't the government who did it. It wasn't just one company that did a great job. It was an army, right? And so no matter who you are in the audience, you play a huge role in where we want to go with this ecosystem. And I'd like you to speak to that. What's the charge? What's the call to action to this audience for excellence in whatever role they play?
I think my charge to every single person that can hear the sound of my voice is very simple. What we're doing in the city of Birmingham is a we, us, our moment. This is our time. And for our city to grow, no one should depend on one entity. The city of Birmingham as a municipal government cannot do it alone. But I also believe small business owners and entrepreneurs should not be left to do it alone as well. And so from a partnership standpoint, from a public-private support linking up standpoint, from a we, us, our standpoint, we have to come together and learn best practices from each other. That's a portion of what this week is about, not just celebrating the good we have, but for people to learn from each other and how to build. My charge is very direct. Embrace we, us, our. Don't be afraid to fail. There were many people, I want everyone to know this, there were many people who told me I shouldn't run. There were many people who told me I couldn't win. There were many people who told me to wait my turn. I imagine as high risk takers in the space of innovators and entrepreneurs and startups, people tell you you're gonna fail. People tell you to wait. People tell you can't. Shake that off. Don't believe that. Be encouraged enough to win. Be encouraged enough to know, be encouraged enough not to be afraid to fail. Own what you want to do. Believe in yourself. Have the passion and the courage and communicate to the world your passion and your vision, and I believe it will come true. So let's embrace each other. Let's continue to work together. And the city of Birmingham, know this. You have a cheerleader at the mayor's office at City Hall. And however I can help, I stand willing and ready.
You mentioned that a lot of people told you shouldn't run. There's a lot of people that didn't take our calls early on, but
a lot of people. There were a lot
when the runoff started,
a lot more calls.
They started calling back, didn't they?
It's okay though.
So we have a little bit of time. We can take a couple questions if there's any questions in the audience for us, and then we can wrap this up and get on with the day. But hopefully you see that you have a leader in this city who is a servant leader. And I think we all know that if there's anything that's missing right now in America in politics, it's leadership. And we have real leadership in our city, and we need to embrace that. So that being said, any questions?
Hi, my name is Joshua. I want to see how would it be possible to, present something.
Possible to present something to me? Absolutely. Email, we can come to the office. If I got a minute, you can step.
Yeah.
I'll come to you, it doesn't matter.
We'll come get you.
We'll make it work.
Hey, great initiative, I like that. And that's another thing is, he's approachable, and you've done a great job of that. And if you ever have anything for the city, Randall's gonna listen. Perfect example, we didn't set that up. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yell it.
How do you see the role of education in not just attracting the kind of opportunities that we want in Birmingham, but also building and creating
It's a great question. So I believe education plays a big role. In one hand, I get a chance, y'all, to spend a lot of time engaging our children, not just this summer, but when school is in as well. And I can tell you there's a massive amount of talent in all type of spaces, Like, just what I find about the youngest generation is they are definitely not afraid to fail. They just have a high imagination, and we as adults need to support that. So in one role, I believe education plays a big part. What is my role as mayor in supporting that creativity, that space for young people? In the mayor's office, we've created not just internships, but we're going to create externships too in support of young people. One of the things we can do is have a dotted line to Dion's group. We can have a dotted line to our innovation community. But another thing we can do in support of our young people tied to education is to make sure we support our superintendent. And so what I find is this. We've had a merry-go-round of leadership at the superintendent level, and what that's done is stifle leadership at every other level, principal, teachers, et cetera. When we do that, we miss the boat on supporting the most important thing, which is our children. And so for any of us who have ideas about how to support young people, you should get them to the superintendent. You should get them to those principals who are in front of those children to give them exposure and opportunity to what you're doing, but also to be able to listen to some very creative, innovative ideas they have as well.
We have time for one more question. Okay.
Oh, question at the top.
Shout it.
Her question was, what made me want to become mayor? So this is a great way to end, because this will be the least third time I've said this week. And it's very simple. I shared with an audience yesterday, I shared with an audience Monday, that you make the latest question. I got this question as late as this past Saturday. Why did I run for mayor? A portion of that answer is I was crazy enough to believe I could actually make a difference in my community. And I said this earlier, but maybe you didn't hear me. I believe people who are in the startup space and entrepreneurs have that same crazy streak. But another portion of why I ran for mayor is because I believe our city had a lot of issues. And I had been a lawyer for the city for the last 8 years. So I want everyone to imagine this. For a minimum of 8 hours a day, for at least 8 years, I was in an adversarial atmosphere. 100% of my time was in a conflict atmosphere where 10 out of 10 people did not want to engage me. And so I learned to deal with issues. I learned to make deals. I learned to engage people. I learned to pretty much react to every emotion that exists. I took all those skill sets, and I've had the opportunity and been afforded the opportunity to be the mayor, because I want to figure out a way to solve the problems of our city. I'm also crazy enough to believe, and I said it earlier, but it's worth saying again, there actually are more solutions than there are problems. We need someone in the mayor's office who not only believes that and embraces that, but is really intentional about executing on those solutions. That's why I ran.
So we're done with this segment, but we have a big day ahead. And as I asked you earlier, please, high energy, even though it's early in the morning. We have great speakers. And remember, I was in your seat 2 years ago, and it spurred me on to new things. And there's probably a big thought today. So if you do one thing today, it's leave with something you're going to take action on. Whether it's a new relationship you made here, whether it's something you learned from one of the speakers, whether it was the charge from our mayor, just write down one thing that you're going to take action on from this event so that you can tell the story of what it did in your career, your life, as time goes on, and you play your role in our ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ren.